That way I don't have to remember everything.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Okay, so the teams, when you played for in person, you had sort of a limit of 6, more or
Yep.
less, but now not really.
Yeah, now it's too hard to manage it. And I've also got many questions because I've done several different meetings and conferences and given presentations about trivia at this point. And I always get the question, oh, how do you keep people from cheating? And I'm like, I don't. It's just sort of, you kind of have to just trust that people are going to do the right thing. I mean, obviously in person, again, you make an announcement at the beginning, please don't use your phones. If we catch you using your phones, you'll be disqualified.
Yeah.
And people are really good about it. But online, like, what are you going to do? Like, there's literally nothing you can do.
Were those scores at all suspicious to you?
No, pretty
8 out of 8, 8 out of 8, yeah.
No, especially given the fact that many of those teams were ones that I've had come back, and they're always good. They're just trivia masters.
So I need some teammates, that's for sure. Okay. There are trivia question generators or something, right? And do you consult those, or you just make everything up? Yeah.
No, I just make everything up, and then I give them to my colleague Christina, who's my fact checker, because we've learned the hard way that people are intense about trivia, and if you have a question that is inaccurate or at all confusing, people get mad. So so we learned the hard way that it's very important to do some significant fact checking and make sure.
And what about the scoring? Who was checking off all the answers?
My colleague,
Christina.
In person, it's manageable by myself. It can, because you have paper right in, the answer sheets right in front of you, and check. But online, it's a lot more cumbersome trying to manage multiple windows, because the answers are coming in on Google Forms, and the answer sheet is over, the score sheet is over here, and I'm trying to, watch the meeting and all that sort of stuff. So it became very apparent from the beginning that I needed help. So Christina logs on with me every month, and she is my scorekeeper.
So you may have just said this, and I was busy writing, but what was I going to ask? You're putting these questions into what? Into Google Forms?
So I don't put the questions into Google Forms, but I did create answer sheets on Google Forms. They're just, text fields, 4 rounds. I have, a different link for each answer sheet. Made them public, and publicly shared. Obviously, nobody else has editing rights except for me. So when they click on the link, they can see the form and put, input, but they can't change anything on the form itself. So that's what we use. And then Christina just looks at the submitted answers at the end of each round through the forms.
Okay.
That works well for us.
So those are the answer sheets, and the questions you're putting those in what?
So the question, you mean like as far as
when you make a round 1 with 8 questions?
Meaning like the display, like how I'm creating it.
Okay, so the form doesn't have the question on it. You were showing all 8 questions on sharing your screen.
Right. Yeah, the form, just because I do reuse them every month, it's the same form that I share. It's just a blank form with 8 fields. The questions themselves, I just created a slideshow and I share my screen.
On Google Slides?
Yeah, it is Google Slides. And I just update that every month.
Okay. So as a review, the secret of the breakout rooms, you learned a lot from this last time, and theoretically they could automatically slide into various rooms prearranged, but you really found that you had to do that once they
I think what I'm going to do, somebody did mention to me that they've done another trivia where that was using breakout rooms, and they just had everybody change their display name to include their team name, so that when the dialog box comes up when I try to assign people, it's right there in their name, which team they're on. So I can more quickly assign them to the room.
Yeah. Well, I did that because I was Byram Bombers, and so I changed my name so it said that.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
everybody did that, you're saying that would really make it a
Right,
lot
because
easier to send people quickly into
right,
appropriate
because
rooms.
when I as the meeting admin bring up the box to assign people to the rooms, it's just literally just a list of everybody that's in the meeting,
Yeah.
and all it shows is their display name. So if it says like Christina, if someone's in the meeting as Christina's iPad, like that's what comes up. So it's whatever they happen to have. And I did notice that some people did that without me even asking. Some people did put their team name in there, like you did, and several other people did too. So that made things very easy. So I think next time I'll just make sure to announce that at the beginning. If everybody could just take a moment and update their name to include their team, I'm going to go ahead and assign everybody to their breakout room, and go from there.
Okay. Are you going to care as you go on? This was the first time you used Zoom for this. Are you going to care if you have a lot of, I'll call them foreigners like me? Will it matter?
Oh no, God, no, I don't care. I don't
And
care.
the reason I ask is I brought this up to the librarian. I'm at a branch library at the Greenwich Library, but it's a little neighborhood thing. And I know him quite well. And I said, I've wanted to do trivia, and I jumped into one last week that I really liked, and I think we're going to want to start one soon. And I said, lots of people could join. People don't, from all over,
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, we want this to be the neighborhood." And I more or less thought, I almost said, "Okay, let's keep you out of this."
I
Like,
think you're
okay, I'll
selling
do
yourself
this.
short that way then. You know what I
Huh?
mean? Like if you're selling yourself short, if you're going to somehow try and limit it to only
Yeah,
only Greenwich Library patrons, well, I mean, the
yeah,
nature of virtual programming is that it's open and available to
yeah,
everyone. Just the
yeah.
way that at least the way we're doing it. We've had people, I was in one of our programs, it wasn't trivia, it was something else. And I made some comment about Connecticut, about weather or something, and somebody piped up like, "Oh, not here," and I was like, "Well, where are you?" She's like, "I'm in Phoenix," and I was like, "How did you find out about this?"
Oh, and she knows somebody or what?
She was also a librarian and like
Uh,
was just sort of poking around, seeing what other libraries were doing, and happened to find us and was really interested in this particular program anyway. So she figured, well, why not? Like, let me register. So
yeah,
yeah, we don't put any limits on who can attend. We're not
yeah,
checking library cards or
right.
anything like that.
Yeah. So okay. So I would aim it at least at first. I'd aim it at local people, but I'd figure out ways that others would know about it, and then
Yeah, I mean, the
maybe
nature of
advertise a little
like
more after that.
I feel like the nature of library marketing anyway is you're pretty much just reaching your people, right? Like
Yeah.
not too many random people are following what the Greenwich Library is doing. So um I think you're most likely at least to start going to get people who already are interested in
Yeah.
attending library programming, but if it extends beyond that, then I think that's just icing on the cake.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the person from Phoenix, when I first got into the meeting the other night, last week, whoever it was talking about the following day, they probably would not be over 100 degrees. I figured it wasn't Danbury and it wasn't anything.
Oh yeah, there was.
Special.
Yeah, that's right. There was coincidentally there was somebody else from Phoenix in
Yeah.
trivia, but they are a team who have been playing regularly, and I think they started out as like a couple of them came to my in person, and then once I went online, they invited like other friends of theirs to
I see.
play with them.
Okay, wondering if I have anything else. Any advice that you give me that I haven't asked about?
Um,
The main thing that caught my ear was that you said have a fact check
yeah,
function somehow.
yeah,
Don't throw a
that's
bogus
huge.
question out there.
Also, you'll find as you get into like writing questions, like there are particular kinds of questions that work better than others. Writing questions that have one concrete answer. I know that sounds sort of obvious, but it can get a little tricky.
Yeah.
And also things that require too specific of an answer, like where it would be really hard to guess just from like context clues. So I've noticed that like questions that require a date or a specific number as an answer are really, really hard for people. So that kind of thing I try to avoid. But like people, places, like those are better because people can sort of talk their way to the answer, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, my main failing as a contestant was that there were certain categories I was hopeless on. And then
yeah.
some things I should have known. The baseball one. I'm a baseball fan. I didn't know 9-0. Something rang about 9-0 and 1-0, and I went the wrong way with it. But, I mean, I'm supposed to be the person to be depended on for certain things like that. So
that is why a team is always good though. And I try to
right.
do like a wide variety. Like I try
Sure.
and include sports and pop culture and music and history. Like I try and run the gamut that way. In any team, hopefully there's somebody who's good at
Mhm.
one piece of it and then
Right.
somebody who's good at the other piece of it and go from there.
Yeah. When I mentioned that I was probably going to do something in Greenwich, somebody in the room said, "Oh, I'll play."
Yeah.
So that was encouraging. So it sounds like, I mean, I wouldn't be messing with you by having one, say, 2 weeks after yours each month, right?
No,
The only one you do is that one.
the only one I do is that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's a lot. I mean, at this point, like I said, we've been doing it 2 years. So I do have quite a collection of questions that I've written, and I suppose that I could always go back and pull from those, but I don't know. It's my own like thing that I don't want to do that.
So
I mean, I
really,
have them all saved, so I could if I wanted to, but
yeah. Really, how many questions or how many hours do you think you spend each time?
it's probably for each month, it's probably a good several hours worth of
Yeah.
time. Um, but again, like sometimes they just come. Like if it's so what I try and do is like pick a trivia theme, like overarching theme, and then the rounds sort of tie back to that theme, and then the questions are sort of punny and like related to the round titles. Um, so like that helps because if you're trying to do like questions about pirates and like you just Google pirates, like all kinds you could just sort of scroll through and that sort of pings things in my head like, oh, Pirates of the Caribbean, oh, Captain
Right.
Morgan, oh, like
Yeah.
you kind of just go through then. And
Yeah. So,
Wikipedia is really helpful because it has a lot of those random tidbits,
right.
and you can just pull right from there and write the question. I always do try and make sure I have some other source, not just Wikipedia. That's, the
Once
librarian in me.
I was playing with one other person who was in the same room with me, and we caught a couple of things that seemed like you were playing games with us, like, oh, that question or that answer and that answer are kind of related. One suggests the other. But then we were led astray with the WHO, and then we thought maybe the Who is the answer to that question about the band. So we went with the Who, and that was a wild guess. It didn't work. So we need more variety in our teammates. Yeah, so
I
that's a
did
lot of
do
fun.
I did do a round table for CLC about trivia back at the beginning of all of this, and they posted on their blog. It was the gaming roundtable, and they did post like another series of my questions on their blog. So if you wanted to take a look at another set of questions that I've written, I've also a lot of our live streams are available on the Danbury's Facebook page, so you can always go and watch some of those if you want to get another idea for the kinds of questions that I write. Sometimes I throw in visual or auditory like ones. Like one last November, I did a no shave November round where I showed a picture of a famous man with very distinctive facial hair, and you had to tell me who it was. So like I had, you know, Mr. T, I think was one, and Salvador Dali with like the big, you know, mustache.
Yeah.
Or I did another round one month where I played, I forget why I did this as the round, but it was the word hello, I think. Maybe I don't recall what it was exactly, but it was like 8 different languages. So I just used Google to like play it, and you had to tell me like what language it was in.
Wait, was that, those were the 8 questions for one round?
Mhm. Like I played it, you know, I used
Yeah.
the microphone. This was when we were still in person, and
Okay.
I just had Google like read it out loud, like what, and you had to tell me what language it was.
Yeah.
And I had it written, like I handed out a paper where it was written too, so they were listening to it and they could look at it,
Yeah.
because some of them, you know, the language was not the Roman alphabet, it was, you know, some other alphabet, so they had a little clue that way too. So I try and do those occasionally too, because they're fun.
So what are the places that I should check? You said the Danbury Facebook page, the Danbury Library?
Yeah, if you go to our videos, if you go to our Facebook page and you click on videos, there's a playlist of our previous live streams.
Okay.
And then I'll find the link for you for the roundtable blog that had the link to another set of questions that I provided, and you can, I think they did a set. I know I provided them with my answer sheets. I think I gave them a set of my questions too. But I'd be happy to just share, like, because I have them all in Google Docs, so I'd be happy to share another month's worth of questions with you if you wanted to.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And I'll let you know when we get this thing cranked up, and maybe you can send a few people over for,
Sure.
you know, for at least when we're starting, and we'll
Yeah,
see
sure.
how it goes. It was a lot of fun. How much time do you think is best for a trivia night?
Ours usually takes about 2 hours,
Oh.
usually from beginning to end.
Well, I'm going to assume that's largely because the people know each other, so they'd be happy when you're fiddling around if they can just chat about the books they've been reading or whatever.
Yeah.
They're happy doing that. But the actual trivia thing itself, 2 hours?
Even like when we were in person, all of our trivia, when we were in person, when it was just me on the live stream, and then this past one, it always is just about 2 hours.
Yeah.
Just always just about wraps up at 2 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. And this is perfect timing, actually. I have to go pick up my son from school. So.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
If you have any other further questions, like feel free to let me know. And then I'll dig around. I'll pull one of my Google Docs and share it with you of one of my months of questions. You can look at it and try and find that blog for you and see if there are anything
Right.
else in there.
I appreciate it.
All right. No problem.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good afternoon.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.